They said Iran's arsenal was broken. They said its missile launchers were gone. The White House even declared, quote, Iran's ballistic missile capacity was functionally destroyed, but then something happened that nobody expected. Deep beneath islands, mountains, and desert rock, something was still firing. This is the story of Iran's hidden weapons network. What the world didn't know existed. What the war revealed. And why, according to analysts, leaked satellite imagery and intel assessments, the military equation in the Middle East may never be the same again. Some of what you're about to see is confirmed. Some of it remains disputed, unverified, or based on early reports that have not been fully corroborated. We will tell you clearly which is which. Because in war, the first casualty is always the truth. Stay with us. February 28th, 2026, it began before dawn. The United States and Israel launched surprise airstrikes on multiple sites and cities across Iran, killing Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and several other senior Iranian officials. The world held its breath. Iran responded almost immediately with missile and drone strikes against Israel, U.S. bases, and U.S. allied countries across the Middle East. This was not a skirmish. This was not a warning shot. This was a war, and it would expose secrets that Iran had spent decades burying underground. Before we talk about what was revealed, we need to understand what was hidden. Iran did not build its military power in the open. It built it underground. Before the conflict, analysts had identified at least 24 missile sites in western Iran, with major clusters around Kermanshah, including the Kanish Canyon complex, which features extensive tunnel bunkers and others extending into the Lorestan and Zagros regions. Many of these facilities include multiple tunnel entrances for quick deployment. Some, like the Hajiabad complex in Hormuzgan, include hardened silos facing Gulf targets. These were not rumors. These were sites tracked by Western intelligence, but their full scale was never publicly confirmed. Tehran spent years hardening parts of its program in underground storage tunnels, concealed bases, and protected launch sites across the country. That network makes it harder to quickly degrade Iran's ability to launch and forces adversaries to assume that some capability will survive even a large first wave of attacks. And then there is Kasham Island. Beneath the labyrinthine salt caves and emerald mangrove forests of Kesham Island in the Strait of Hormuz, a different kind of architecture lies buried. While tourists once flocked to this open-air geological museum to glimpse its surreal rock formations, the world's gaze is now fixed on what lies beneath. Iran's underground missile cities. This is where things get interesting and where some of the most important unverified claims of this conflict originate. In the third week of the war, something extraordinary happened. Iranian state media granted CNN journalists access to what appeared to be a massive underground missile storage facility. The images showed long tunnels, row upon row of missiles, drone canisters stacked on metal racks. Now, and this is critical, we must be transparent about what we know and what we don't. Iran has a documented history of staging military displays for propaganda purposes. Intelligence analysts at think tanks, including the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and the Institute for Science and International Security, have warned that Iranian state media footage should always be treated with caution. Lower third banner, unverified. The following claims are based on Iranian state media and early conflict reporting. Independent verification is limited. What the footage appeared to show, however, was consistent with what Western analysts had long suspected. Iran did not concentrate its missiles in easily targetable above-ground depots. It dispersed them. Iran disperses its arsenal across numerous sites, including underground missile cities. Within this network, short-range ballistic missiles are likely concentrated in western Iran, given their primary purpose for targeting Gulf nations, while drone infrastructure spans underground bases, airfields, and production sites across the country. Iran has also tested but not yet used in combat space launch vehicles, such as the Simarg and Zuljana, which U.S. analysts believe could potentially be repurposed as long-range ballistic missiles with a range in excess of 2,500 miles. We want to be very clear that repurposing claim remains speculative. Iran has not demonstrated this capability in combat, and U.S. analysts say it would take years to weaponize such vehicles effectively. But here's what is documented. The facilities exist. The dispersal is real, and the war has confirmed it. The sheer volume of what Iran unleashed shocked even experienced military analysts. On March 5th, a military source told Iran's Fars news agency that Iran had fired over 500 ballistic and naval missiles and almost 2 mil drones since February 28th. The report claimed that nearly 40% of launches were aimed toward Israel and nearly 60% were fired toward U.S. targets in the region. Now, Fars news agency is controlled by Iran's Revolutionary Guard, so treat those numbers as Iran's own accounting, not necessarily verified by Western sources. U.S. and Israeli military officials have given their own, often different, tallies. What is confirmed independently? According to the Saudi Al Arabia network, 85% of Iran's launches, totaling approximately 4,911 rockets, missiles, and UAVs, were directed at Gulf states and 15% at Israel. In the first week of Tehran's retaliation campaign, drones accounted for about 71% of recorded strikes on Gulf states. The UAE alone reportedly faced 1,422 detected drones and 246 missiles in just 8 days. The sheer scale of this forced a terrifying math problem onto U.S. military planners. Iran's Shait drones cost between roughly $20 mil and $50 mil each. The Patriot missiles the U.S. and Gulf nations are using to shoot them down cost approximately $4 million per interceptor. Read that again. A $20 mil drone shot down by a 4 million missile. Iran doesn't need to win militarily. It just needs to keep firing. In the opening phase of the campaign, U.S. forces fired approximately 170 Tomahawk missiles in just 100 hours, roughly 3 times the number the Pentagon had requested from defense contractor Raytheon for the entire 2026 fiscal year. Lockheed produced only about 600 Patriot missile interceptors in 2025 and is aiming to scale to 2 mil by 2027. But with Gulf states already running low on interceptors, the math may not work out in time. Now we come to what may be the most consequential revelation of this entire conflict. And again, warning, parts of this remain unconfirmed by independent Western sources at the State of the Union address on February 24, 2026. President Trump stated that Iran had restarted its nuclear program and was developing missiles capable of striking the United States. A few days later, the International Atomic Energy Agency reported that Iran had hidden highly enriched uranium in an underground facility that had been undamaged in the previous round of fighting. The IAEA said it had no evidence that Iran has an organized nuclear weapons program or is building an atomic bomb, but it also could not confirm that Iran's broader nuclear program was exclusively peaceful because the agency was denied access. This is a critical distinction. No confirmed nuclear weapon, but hidden enriched uranium. And a facility that survived Israeli and U.S. strikes in June 2025. Then there is Parchin, the military complex east of Tehran. Satellite imagery from March 4th confirmed that the combined U.S.-Israeli force struck the Parchin military complex for the second time since February 28th. Iran has used the Parchin complex to develop and manufacture advanced munitions, including drones and missiles. The complex also played a key role in Iran's Pre-Odo-3 nuclear weapons program. Why does Parchin matter so much? Because even after repeated strikes, satellite imagery showed certain underground portions appeared structurally intact. Rumor unverified The following claim circulates in Iranian and some international media, but has not been independently confirmed. Some Iranian media outlets and a small number of Western analysts have suggested that Parchin contains a deeply buried secondary production network that has never appeared on Western satellite surveys. The claim holds that Iran moved critical missile guidance component manufacturing to these underground nodes, specifically after the June 2025 12-day war. This is not confirmed. The Defense Intelligence Agency, as of early 2026, had not publicly acknowledged this specific claim, but the behavior of Iran's missile launches, which continued weeks after strikes supposedly decimated production, has led some independent analysts to say something is still running somewhere. Whatever Iran's nuclear secrets may be, one revelation in this war is completely undeniable. Drones have changed warfare permanently. The FHZ-136 drone can be made quickly and in large numbers in relatively simple factories, and several can be fired at once, overwhelming defenses. It doesn't need complex launchers that can be targeted in air. With a speed of just 185 kilometers per hour, Shaheeds can theoretically be shot down by helicopters, yet many have still managed to get through U.S. and Gulf air defense systems. A fire broke out near Dubai International Airport in a drone-related incident that temporarily disrupted flights. Another drone attack caused a fire at the Fujairah industrial area. In the Strait of Hormuz, a waterway through which 20% of global energy supplies are shipped, hundreds of vessels remain paralyzed over fears of being struck. The U.S. watched all of this happen and responded in kind. The U.S. deployed its own version of Iran's weapon against Iran. The Low-Cost Unmanned Combat Attack System, LUCAS, is essentially a knockoff of the Iranian-designed FHZ-136 drones that Russia used extensively in Ukraine. CENTCOM said in a social media post, these low-cost drones, modeled after Iran's Shahed drones, are now delivering American-made Retribution. Lucas was reverse-engineered from the Iranian FHZ-136 and sped through the Pentagon's acquisition pipeline in just 18 months, only recently being embedded in U.S. Central Command in December 2025. The United States, the most powerful military on Earth, is now deploying a weapon it copied from Iran. Let that sink in. Here's what the hidden missile revelation ultimately means. Not just tactically, but strategically. Iran's doctrine was never to match the United States missile. Iran built its power around a concept Western analysts call asymmetric warfare, and the hidden arsenal is its backbone. Iran's medium-range ballistic missiles, with heavy warheads, put the entire Middle East and parts of Southeastern Europe, Southeast Asia, and Northeast Africa within reach from Iranian territory. By enabling launches from deep within its own territory and from shifting locations, the layered range structure of its missile arsenal reduces Iran's vulnerability to counterstrikes while still threatening targets across the region. Unlike the 12-day war that the U.S. and Israel waged on Iran in June 2025, the killing of Khamenei appears to have convinced Tehran that the clash is a battle for the Islamic Republic's very survival. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said seeking revenge for the killing of Khamenei and other senior officials is the country's duty and legitimate right. Iran's anti-ship missiles could be very effective against civilian and even military vessels in the narrow confines of the Hormuz Strait, though this has yet to be tested in practice. The U.S. military has signaled its concern with a series of bunker-buster strikes along the coastline of the strait that it says were targeting anti-ship cruise missile placements. And then there is what one Bloomberg investigation called the unexpected strain. As the conflict extended toward its third week, Iran's arsenal of attack drones and ballistic missiles had helped make Tehran unlike any adversary the U.S. had previously faced. Let's step back and ask the big question: what did this war actually reveal about Iran's hidden arsenal? First, the underground network is real and it worked. Iran's most powerful weapons, its long-range missiles, were hidden deep inside mountain tunnels by the Revolutionary Guards. Despite massive airstrikes, Iran continued to launch ballistic missiles for weeks. Second, dispersal was the key to survival. The number of retaliatory missiles and drones Iran fired toward Gulf countries declined sharply as the war continued, from 167 missiles and 541 drones in the first 24 hours against the UAE alone, down to just 4 missiles and 6 drones by day 15, but the decline came gradually, not immediately, proving that the dispersal strategy bought Iran critical time. Third, The production networks are harder to destroy than assumed. The combined U.S.-Israeli force advanced to a phase specifically targeting Iranian defense industrial assets, especially missile production facilities. The IDF issued evacuation warnings for industrial zones in Tehran province housing defense-linked companies, but whether the strikes fully shut down production remains unclear. And fourth, the most debated claim of all, which we, again, flag clearly as rumor, not confirmed. Multiple Iranian and regional media outlets have suggested that Iran deliberately allowed some of its conventional missile networks to be struck early in the conflict, acting as a decoy, while preserving a deeper, more advanced layer of its arsenal for sustained use. The suggestion is that what the world saw firing in weeks 1 and 2 was not Iran's best weapons, but its expendable stockpile. This claim has not been verified by any Western government or credible, independent intelligence source. U.S. defense officials have specifically said Iran's ballistic missile capacity was significantly degraded, but the fact that Iran kept firing for weeks after those declarations has kept the rumor alive in military analytical circles. One final revelation, or rather, one final question that this war has raised. Al Jazeera's features team reported on a question that's haunting Western intelligence agencies. Could Iran be using China's Beidou satellite navigation system to guide its missiles with greater precision than GPS-based systems allow? And could that be why some strikes penetrated sophisticated air defenses? This is, at this point, speculation by analysts. No Western intelligence agency has publicly confirmed it. China has officially denied providing military assistance to Iran in the current conflict. But the precision of certain Iranian strikes hitting specific buildings, specific infrastructure targets, has left military planners asking questions they don't yet have answers to. Here is what we know for certain, based on verified reporting from Al Jazeera, NPR, CNN, Bloomberg, the Council on Foreign Relations, Critical Threats, and the IAEA. Iran built an underground missile and drone network spanning mountains, islands, and industrial zones across its territory. That network survived the opening weeks of the most intense air campaign the United States has launched since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Beneath the daily headlines of strikes and counterstrikes, warfare itself is being transformed. In the first week of Iran's retaliation, drones accounted for about 71% of recorded strikes on Gulf states. An outline of the future of war has definitively come into view. The specific claims about what lies in the deepest tunnels, the advanced guidance systems, the potential secondary production networks, the possible nuclear material remain unverified, disputed, or officially denied. We told you that from the start. And we're telling you again now, because in a war this complex, in a region this volatile, the most dangerous weapon isn't a missile or a drone. It's certainty that you don't actually have the war in Iran is ongoing. The intelligence picture is evolving daily. We will continue to report what is confirmed, flag what is rumored, and refuse to fill the gaps with speculation dressed up as fact. Subscribe. Share this video if you think the context matters, and drop your questions in the comments. What do you think this conflict has revealed that the world still isn't talking about?